You are listening to a presentation of the Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network. And now your host, Caleb Turner.
Hello again and welcome everybody to our downtown Coquitlam, British Columbia, Canada studios, live on the Anchor Radio Network, February 16th, 2013, evening edition tonight on the Caleb Turner Talk Show. It was a beautiful day today, beautiful sunshine. We got to see the mountains, and we got to see blue skies and some sunshine. It was nice. We got a great show planned for you today. We're going to talk some college basketball hoops. We're going to touch on the NBA. We'll get to the Canucks and, of course, the NHL, and maybe a little All-Star Weekend talk as we celebrate Michael Jordan's 50th birthday tomorrow. I'm sure that is a highlight for everybody listening to the broadcast. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. The Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network.
The Vancouver Canucks take on the St. Louis Blues tomorrow at Rogers Arena. Coverage begins at 4 o'clock right here on the Anchor Radio Network. Join us for Face-Off at 6 o'clock.
You are listening to the Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network. And now your host, Caleb Turner.
We're back live on the air here on the Anchor Radio Network. The Caleb Turner Talk Show rolls on 9th edition tonight. We began this program December 22nd, 2012, and as you can tell, I still struggle with getting some words out of my mouth. Special thanks to Bob running everything, as he has always done since the start of this program, running all the commercials, the sounds, the sound effects, anything else. We're thinking about adding actually a couple of things to the show in the next couple of weeks, potentially adding sound bites and sound clips from sports. And we'll see what you people think about that. Special thanks to Tim, Rob, and Sam back at control. It's easy to get Bob and Rob mixed together, seeing how their names are very, very similar. That would be Tim, our producer, Rob, our co-producer, and Sam, our on-site producer, who is actually here right now, sitting to my left over in the corner. Sam, how's it going? Yeah, okay. He doesn't want to talk. And to the Anchor Radio Network as well for keeping us on the air here every week. It hasn't been windy and rainy. It was kind of windy today. There was a little bit of sprinkle, but it was just a couple of clouds that basically blew over. And I got to go outside and play some basketball and some street hockey. That was nice. First time this year that I have played street hockey. It's been a while since I have played street hockey. In fact, I think it was actually September of 2012 was the last time, maybe October, it was the last time that I played street hockey outside. Obviously outside. I mean, you can play floor hockey. So, anyways. We got a couple of things to talk about. College basketball. Has it ever been, like, I have not seen a year like this where the number one seed gets beat over and over again. And so far, Indiana, I think, has survived the longest as the number one seed. At least for now. They won today 85-55 over the Purdue Boilermakers at home. So they had no problem with Purdue. Won by 30. But the number 2 seeded Duke Blue Devils lose to their rivals in the ACC 83-81 to Maryland. They will definitely drop, as will my Michigan Blue, as they lost at Michigan State, 75-52. Now, Michigan State was 8th. Michigan State is a very, very good basketball team this year, and they were in action against Nebraska today, and they won 73-64. So they probably will move up, considering the Duke loss and the Michigan loss. In fact, I would not be surprised if Mich State moves ahead of the Blue this next coming week with the new AP polls. Now, Michigan has had a tough last several games. They lost back-to-back games. They lost to Michigan State. And, of course, they lost to Indiana a couple games ago. And it just seems like it's been a tough stretch for the Michigan Wolverines. A good team. They just, I don't know. They got incredible players. Nick Stauskas, he can shoot the ball. Glenn Robinson III, Tim Hardaway Jr. And they just and Trey Burke. I mean, not to mention, I mean, he's incredible himself. They have tons of great quality players, but just can't seem to get it done against the big teams right now. Now, they beat Ohio State, so that's their big win of the year. But they've played Indiana, and they have played Mitch State, and they'll play Indiana later on this year at home. So I would expect a better performance than the last game against Indiana. The Gonzaga, what are they, Bulldogs? Yeah, the Gonzaga Bulldogs, 71-61 win over San Francisco. I did not know San Francisco had a university. I knew they had a university, but not a university basketball team. But they actually stuck with Gonzaga, only lost by 10. And they actually have a pretty good team this year coming out of the WAC. Are they in the WAC? Yeah, they're in the WAC. Maybe the Midwest. And the Florida Gators survive Auburn. Well, they didn't really survive them. They blew them out 83-52. And Florida, most likely Florida will probably move back into the top 4 with Duke and Michigan losing. Potentially moving into 4th. Unless Gonzaga will move it. Gonzaga will probably move into 4th. Florida will move into 5th. Syracuse will move into, they'll probably stay in 6th. And Michigan State will probably move up to 7th. And maybe Michigan and or Duke stay somewhere in there. I'm not saying Michigan and Duke are bad teams. They seem to lose to the teams that they probably should beat. I'm not saying Indiana was a win that was definitely winnable. It was a winnable game, but it wasn't like expected 100%. You're going to beat Indiana. Indiana's got an incredible team starting with Zeller. And there's absolutely no doubt he might be one of the best players in the college basketball this season. Kansas State beats their Big 12 rivals Baylor 81-61. And with the teams not in action, you had Miami. They won at Florida State this past week, 71-47, so they will definitely stay in 3rd. Now, you know what? They're going to move up to 2nd because Duke lost. Syracuse was in action against Seton Hall. They escaped by 11 points, 76-65. They were number 6th. They may stay in 6th. I don't know. They may move up. I'm not too sure. But Michigan State in action against Nebraska. They won 73-64, so they won both their games this week against Big Ten schools in Michigan and Nebraska. That's why I think Michigan State moves up into 7th and or 6th. Syracuse may even lose a spot. I'm not sure, but I think that if you're going to start thinking properly, probably either Duke or Michigan, if not both of them, stay in the top 10 with the next AP top 25. And rounding out the list in 9th, Arizona lost at Colorado 71-58 and versus California 77-69. So potentially, guaranteed they will be out of the top 10 come Monday afternoon. And probably, is it Tuesday? No, it'll be Tuesday that we'll find out. But potentially, Arizona may drop altogether out of the top 25. You lose both your games in a week, they're going to at least drop to it, you would think, at least 18th or 19th. In the top 25, and that's just a minimum. I mean, Colorado's a pretty good Big 12, California okay in the Pac-10, but, I mean, those were must-win games for Arizona. So, losing those games, and they lost to Colorado by 13, they lost to California by 8. So, Arizona, they're going to fall out. Eric Green of Virginia Tech leads college basketball with 25.2 points per game. And the Virginia Tech Hokies are nowhere. Yeah, Virginia Tech Mountaineers. West Virginia Mountaineers. Virginia Tech Hokies. I was right the first time. I was right. Virginia Tech Hokies are nowhere in the radar list. Now, I will say this. In my scene this year, my top teams in college basketball definitely has Indiana at number 1. Probably Miami in number 2. Duke somewhere in there. I don't think they're number 3, and I don't think they're number 4. In the games that I have seen and what I have watched, I'm not biased, so Michigan probably isn't 3rd or 4th as well. But I would venture to say Michigan State is up there, Syracuse is up there, but I definitely have Indiana as number 1 and Miami as number 2 right now. Miami is stacked. And I don't know if you guys saw or not, but LeBron James and Dwayne Wade were in attendance for one of the Miami games. And that was a thrill, probably for them. It was also a thrill for the Miami players, having LeBron and Wade down on the front row cheering you guys on. And they won the game in style, several alley-oops, slam dunks, several three-pointers, and of course they got the standing ovation from LeBron and Wade at the end when they won the game. So obviously, you know, they take something out of that. And positive results for the Miami Hurricanes. They are the Hurricanes. Miami, Florida Hurricanes, yes. When we come back, we'll get into the NHL. Might brush up on the NBA. I don't know. We'll see. We don't exactly have much time on the air tonight. We're just going to try to fit in a couple of things here in the 9th edition. We're going to have a good edition for you next week. 10th edition, we got to go all out. 10th edition, we'll probably get a phone call in with some expert, if we can find some expert that'll want to be on the show. Yeah, Bob's laughing over there. That's what I thought. And potentially talk with our NFL expert. I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure he's probably on holidays. Is that Phil Davis? Phil Davis? Yeah, Phil Davis at the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Yeah, is he on holidays? Him and his wife. That's right. They went down to Bermuda. Yeah. Okay, so probably not Phil Davis. And, yeah, he needed some time off. He's been at it this year. I mean, have you seen some of his columns that he writes in the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette? Man, he is good. And definitely, of course, a Steelers fan. Obviously, diehard Steelers fan. If you're working for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, you have to be a Steelers fan, period. But he delivers a good aspect and a good variety and a good insight on the whole NFL. And as you know, he was pulling for the Seahawks there in the playoffs, even though we played them back on Super Bowl 40. And it was a 40. Yeah, it was 40. And, but he definitely knows what he's talking about, and that's why we have him on the air. We have people on the air on the Caleb Turner Talk Show. We have people on the air that know what they're talking about. You know, these talk shows that they have, you know, they have callers calling. Okay, the callers, for one thing, they don't have to know what they're talking about, but the analysts that call in, they better know what they're talking about. And that's why you got these big-name guys like Jim Rome and Dan Patrick and our very own Blake Price and the Moj, Bob the Moj Marjanovic. Obviously, they're going to have good guys calling it. But these peewee guys who have their talk shows out there, well, they don't exactly have the best analysts calling it. Now, it's okay. I mean, you're going to get, you know, the Bob Costas is calling in. You're going to get, you know, the Dwayne Waynes, the LeBron James, the Kobe Bryant athletes. You're going to get Sidney Crosby. If you can get Sidney Crosby calling in and having him on the show, you're doing pretty good. You're Ovechkin. You know, the Sedin twins. And I'm talking about all around NFL. You know, you get Drew Brees, Tom Brady. And now, Marshawn Lynch, Adrian Peterson. You know, an MLB, Albert Pujols. You know, maybe some big-name pitchers like Felix Hernandez, who officially has the $176 million contract as well. They signed that this week. And, of course, the teams around the MLB, they're definitely geared up as spring training is officially underway. The season begins later on in April, beginning in April, somewhere in there. I'll have to get a check on that, and we will get back to that. And we're not going to talk MLB. We're not going to talk about MLB tonight. There's no point. There's no point. It hasn't even started yet. There's no point about talking about it when it starts. But hey, when the MLB starts, we're going to have quite a bit to talk about. Because once the MLB starts, you know what's right around the corner. The CFL is starting. And of course, MLS, the Whitecaps this year. High expectations for the Whitecaps in my eyes. As you know, Maddox is guaranteed that he's going to have, 30 goals on the year? 25 goals on the year? Some whacked out number that he's going to basically have to score every game. And, you know, every game, maybe miss a couple. But he's going to have to almost score in every game. That's a pretty big and bold prediction from Darren Maddox of the Vancouver Whitecaps. When we come back, we will get into the NHL. A lot of things have rearranged since the last time we talked. The Tampa Bay Lightning are not in the playoffs if it started right now. They are not in the playoffs. That is sad. This team started out top of the East. They had high expectations, and I had high expectations for them as well. But we'll get into that later. After the commercial break. You got it live on the Anchor Radio Network, the Caleb Turner Talk Show. It rolls on when we come back.
Do you suffer from heartburn, heartaches, or maybe even heartbrokenness? Hi there. My name is Bob Schultz. I am a heart burnologist, and I specialize with people who have their hearts broken. Don't let it bug you. It can only get worse, and once it is at its highest peak, it can break you. So don't let it break you. Let me help you. Just call me up for a free consultation. You are listening to the Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network. And now your host, Caleb Turner.
We're back live on the broadcast, February 16th, 2013. And folks, let me just tell you this. On that last commercial, think about it. Mental health awareness. We know Kevin BX stresses it after his best friend fell to mental health. Mental health can cause problems. Depression, when it sets in, it definitely takes over. And you spend your whole entire life and your whole entire hours of the day thinking about whatever is bothering you. So call up Bob Schultz. He can help you. And we'll give you a free consultation. How about that? And, the funny thing is, Bob, on these commercials, you never give a number. How come we aren't giving out numbers? Oh, they have to go to the website? All right. If you got any questions, just ask Bob. He knows everything. And that's Bob, my guy, Bob. Not Bob Schultz. Not Bob Schultz on the commercial. He probably knows everything, too. He probably knows more than Bob. My Bob. That sounds funny. My Bob. That sounds really weird. Anyways, let's move right along. I got my producer Tim looking at me here. Actually, not Tim, Sam. I'm sorry. I keep mixing up your guys' names. Sam is the more Italian-looking one. Tim is more white. And Bob, well, he's a Rob. He's black. Anyways. Okay, here we go. Let's move right along. NHL. Things have been really shaping up. But nothing has changed in the West. Look at the Blackhawks. Oh my goodness, look at the Blackhawks. 11-0-3 with 25 points out of a possible 28. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? The Chicago Blackhawks look like right now, they look like the Harlem Globetrotters of basketball. I mean, I know we beat them, but it doesn't count. Shootout does not count. In my eyes, the shootout is one of the worst things that the NHL has ever had a problem with. In fact, I think the shootout is worse than the NHL lockout. The shootout is worse than the lockout. Because you get to the point in the game where, and I'm not saying end it with a tie. Don't end it with a tie. You keep the overtime going until someone scores, just like the playoffs. And I know it's all about Toronto, and I know all the people back in Toronto have to go to bed and have to have their bedtimes and their little nappies. But you know what? The Canucks games don't end. For that matter, the West Coast games don't end until, 12, 1 in the morning on the East Coast. What's wrong with ending it a little bit later, 2 and 3? I like continuous overtime. The playoff overtime produces some of the best games, and I know people will make the argument that just keep it in the playoffs because the playoffs is the best part of the season. But no, you want more ratings? Keep the overtime going. Keep it going. Let the high-intensity drama of a next goal wins go. Let it just keep flowing. It produces some of the most nail-biting, sitting on your hands, keeping them warm because they start to go cold once you've watched so much of the game, because you feel like you're in the hockey game. It can happen. Let it happen. Let overtime keep going. And for that matter, if you're so upset about, we gotta end the game somewhere, then end it after one full 20-minute overtime period. At least let one period go by, and if it ends in a tie, whatever. And for that matter, if we're going to get technical, do a 10-minute overtime, then do the shootout. 10 minutes of 4-on-4, then do the shootout. And I know there's these weirdos out there that say just go 3-on-3. That's stupid. That is very, very stupid. That's basically like 3-on-3 half-court basketball, which is even more stupid. 3-on-3 basketball, you gotta have at least 4 guys. 2-on-2 is okay, because you can do the Sedin twins type thing on hockey and or basketball. But this 3-on-3 stuff that people are, bring one more guy off the ice from both teams to make it 3-on-3. That'll be awesome. No, it's not going to be awesome. Because if some guy takes a penalty, then it's 3-on-2. And that's even more weird. That's crazy. A 3-on-2 power play. Anyways, I'm getting on a rabbit trail. The New Jersey Devils in the East, 9-2-3 with 21 points. They're starting to collapse, though. They've showed some signs of collapsation. And it looked like they were going to lose to the New York Islanders tonight. They were down 3-1 with about 5:24 to go in the game. Did they lose that game? Yeah, they lost. We'll have to confirm that. The Boston Bruins, 8-2-2. The second... Actually, they are the team that I hate the worst. Chicago in a close second. They have 18 points. They are second in the East. The Carolina Hurricanes. Now, I think one of the biggest stories this year, I know everybody's like, oh, Chicago, undefeated. Okay, but one of the biggest stories, I think, in the NHL, Carolina Hurricanes, 8-4-1, third in the East. They are on top of their division. They're in the Southeast. And really, the next team that's anywhere near them is Winnipeg. Tampa Bay, 7-6-1. Yeah, okay. Carolina, Tampa Bay's only 2 back. I take it back. Carolina is not the biggest story in the NHL. Although it is pretty big that they would be third in the East, and even without being top-notch on their division, they'd still be 5th. 6th. They would still be 6th. Ahead of Toronto, ahead of Ottawa, and ahead of the Rangers. The Rangers wouldn't... Well, the Rangers would be in... No, they wouldn't be in the playoffs because Tampa Bay would have jumped all the way up to 3rd. But anyways, for all circumstantial conversations and talks that we might spend hours and hours discussing one team, which I don't know how any sports broadcaster could do that. That takes skill. That takes a lot of skill. To talk about one team, and there are some people that talk about one player for that amount of time. How can you do that? How can you talk about one player and, for that matter, one team for that amount of time? Hours. They'll spend their whole entire broadcast talking about one team. And even the Canuck broadcasters, they talk about the Vancouver Canucks for 3 hours on end. And then everyone's like, oh, I want to hear more about my Vancouver Canucks. There isn't much to talk about after this week, after we saw the Vancouver Canucks blow a 3-1 lead, after Henrik Sedin broke the all-time points record last night against the Dallas Stars. There isn't much to talk about Vancouver. They still struggle defensively. They still struggle. They are the best team with the most problems. I still hold to that. The consistent, I know they were on like a 6-game win streak. Okay, good. But in those 6 games, they struggled with so many things. The only game that I think that they struggled with, that they didn't struggle with in that 6-game stretch was probably last Saturday against Calgary when they won 5-1. There you go. There's my Canucks for today. There isn't much more to talk about except that Henrik Sedin did break Marcus Naslin's points record, and he moves into first place overall in Vancouver Canucks history. First in points, 765 points? Him and Daniel both will have over 1,000 points in their career, and hopefully they keep them here in Vancouver, because that will be the biggest story. 2 brothers, twins, identical twins. There have been times where they have put on their jerseys, opposite jerseys. Daniel puts on Hank's and Hank's puts on Danny's, and they go out and people don't know who they are. They don't know who they are. I think that's like, if they both get 1,000 points in a Vancouver Canucks uniform, 2 brothers getting 1,000 points, and right now it's looking like Henrik will probably get there before Daniel, at least right now it is. And of course, Daniel's had his injuries there with a concussion, and did he not have a knee injury or a leg injury at some point? He had to sit out several games. So Henrik, I think, has played more games than his bro, but still, if both of them get 1,000 points in a Canucks uniform, that's gotta mean something. Because they are definitely right now, and I know Trevor Linden was saying this earlier on Bob the Moses show, that potentially they could be the best tandem in the NHL all time. If they both get over 1,000 points, I think they're in that discussion. We've seen some absolutely sick plays, and Henrik's assist to break the record was probably one of the top assists so far this year that the Canucks have had, and maybe in the top 10. Just the degree of difficulty to get the puck between sticks and between legs and under sticks and over sticks to get it to Burroughs. You know, Burroughs has got to feel really good that he scored the goal that got Henrik first place all time in the NHL. Of course, it's looking like they're both going to be right there. In the long run, I think they will. They'll both crack 1,000. Thomas Vanek, 23 points. Patrick Kane, 21 points. Crosby, 21 points. Martin St. Louis, 19 points. Stamkos, 18 points. Your top 5 in the NHL in points. Vanek leads the league tied with Neal, 11 goals apiece. Clarkson with 10. Marleau with 10. Kane with 9. And your goals against average leader, Roberto Luongo, 1.45. GAA Anderson with 1.58. Rene with 1.61. Crawford with a 1.65. Ellis with a 1.75 goals against average. And Roberto Luongo is second in the league in save percentage. I do not have those stats right now in front of me. Maybe we can get those later. I don't know. But I think Roberto Luongo gets the start against tomorrow against St. Louis. I think it's very clear right now. There is no goalie controversy. Roberto Luongo needs to be the number 1 goalie right now. He is definitely the hotter of the two. Make that very, very clear. When we come back, we'll talk about the NBA. Maybe touch on the All-Star break. We shall see. You got live on the Caleb Turner Talk Show and the Anchor Radio Network.
You can watch the NBA All-Star Game, the East versus the West. Tomorrow you can listen to it on the Anchor Radio Network. We will have coverage beginning at noon and the tip-off later on in the afternoon. East versus West, the All-Stars meet in Houston, Texas. Tomorrow, live on the Anchor Radio Network.
We're back live on the Anchor Radio Network, the Caleb Turner Talk Show. This is my favorite soundtrack that we play here on the Anchor Radio Network. Don't you just love that? That's just like, I don't know, I mean, for me, that's cool. I like that just soft kind of, I don't know, maybe that's just me. It probably is. My business partners say I am very, very extravagantly weird. Like, listen to that. That's just so, like, creepy, kind of. But it's dramatic, but it's soft, and it's... Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. The Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network is live. We're back. I think we were already here. We are officially back, I should say, after my soundtrack chatting with you. There are a lot of soundtracks that we play here. We like to play that one. What's that one called? That's called Standing By Mark A. Clark. IAmusic.com. If you want to check it out, I do not know if the album is still going. And I don't know if that music is still going. And I do not know if that website is still on. But I have sources and access. Me and Bob both know a very good friend, especially he goes to our church, Anchor Baptist, and he has special music that we use. And we definitely give a lot of credit, though, to Mark A. Clark, the composer and the artist of the music. But why'd you just bump the mic? Why'd you do that? There's no point. Come on. Seriously. Whatever. But I do have sources outside of the inner world in the radio broadcast network. I do have sources where I can get my music. And no, it's not just downloading off websites. I do have actually human body sources that give me stuff. Have you noticed that it sounds like in my voice I'm still going through puberty? It sounds like my voice is still, it still squeaks at some points and then it gets high up here when I get upset and when I get ticked off. I don't know. Maybe it's something that's, yeah, I don't know. Maybe, yeah, Bob. Oh, that's good. Maybe it's something that, I don't know. Maybe I'll grow out of it at some point in my life. Hopefully before I get married. I would like to get married. Everybody out there listening, I would like to get married at some point in my life. Obviously, if it's God's will. You know, don't get married. Don't rush off. That's something we should talk about. We should talk about teenagers rushing off and getting married because there's nobody there to choose from. Folks, when it was the Civil War, And after the Civil War, when all the troops came back, which there were not very many troops, but when the troops came back, there were not very many, but there were a lot of women out there that wanted to get married, that wanted to start a family, and there were not enough men. And then so they had to go out and marry 50 and 60-year-olds. And that's how the next generations began. So all these teenage girls, especially the teenage girls, I think it's more girls than it is guys. When it gets to a certain point when there are no guys, it seems like, there are. Trust me, it's just either God has not pointed you to the right girl. The right guy. If you're a guy, the right girl. If you're a girl, the right guy. God obviously hasn't pointed you to him or her, depending on the situation. I am not a marriage counselor. I am not a teenage marriage counselor. So let's just move on. Anyways, okay. Okay. NBA, Miami Heat. Yeah, there we go. Let's move on to a better topic here. San Antonio Spurs, too. The Spurs and the Heat are the two best teams in the league in my eyes. And I think OKC comes in at third, and the Clippers come in at fourth, and Memphis and New York are kind of iffy right now. They're in there, they're not in there, they're somewhere in there. But I'll tell you one thing, the Miami Heat and the Oklahoma City had an incredible match on Thursday night. I hope you got to watch it. Absolutely unbelievable. LeBron James was absolutely phenomenal, as they would say on one of those NBA radio stations. But LeBron James averaging 27.3 points per game, but Kevin Durant averages 29.2, and Carmelo Anthony with 28.6. LeBron coming in at third. Is LeBron James, this is the question everybody's been asking, is LeBron James the next Michael Jordan? Can he win 6 rings? Can he win 5 to tie Kobe? That's what everybody's asking. And they asked Michael, and he said, personally, my eyes, 5 beats 1 every time. And what did LeBron say? Well, that's just his opinion, you know. I mean, I'm like the best player right now in the NBA. And I know I'm not a very good LeBron impersonator. You know, my impersonations always sound the same. It's always this. It sounds like a Lego Trooper movie or something. It sounds like something out of a Lego movie. Something like that. I'm not a very good Lego voice impersonator, although it may sound that way. The Lakers, I don't know. I don't even know where to begin about the Lakers. I honestly have absolutely I have nothing to say. The Lakers are so bad, and they have so many problems, and their biggest problem was not hiring Phil Jackson when they had the opportunity to. Instead, they went and hired Mike D'Antoni, who in my eyes is not a bad coach, but in this situation, he is. And they've blown their season. They've blown it by hiring Mike D'Antoni. He was not the right guy. Phil Jackson is the best coach all time in the NBA, and in my eyes, he might be the best sports coach, period. Except for maybe Mike Krzyzewski is in there and maybe Scotty Bowman. But other than that, and, okay, for lack of better reason, Bill Belichick, maybe. But Phil Jackson put together dynasties in Chicago. He was given dynasties with MJ, Scottie Pippen, and it goes on and on and on. And then you got the Lakers with Shaq and Kobe and Fisher. And, again, he's won 12 rings, 11 as a coach, 1 as a player. 6 with the Bulls, 5 with the Lakers. Is it 11? That's 11. I'm sorry, it's 11. I cheated in one ring. He won 1 with the player, 4 with the Lakers, and 6 with the Bulls. That is correct. Correct? Let's confirm that, and we'll get back to everybody who has questions about that stat. But anyways, the Miami Heat, still, in my eyes, the best team in the league. I think they're better than San Antonio. They can beat San Antonio. I mean, Miami has so much depth, and San Antonio does too. But the Miami Heat have just this persona about them, this emblem or example, or I should say profile pic about them, that when you see the Miami Heat or when you hear the Miami Heat name, you immediately think King James, yes, but then you think, whoa, they're good. Going right from their management to the coach to the players to the water boys to the trainers and the fans and the bandwagon fans and the fans that are fans because they like LeBron and the fans that are fans because they like D-Wade, okay, for that matter, and for the fans that are fans of Chris Bosh. I know there are some out there, and I know Chris Bosh thinks he's one of the best players on the team. Okay, whatever. He's too high on himself. He thinks he's a Hall of Famer. I don't know if he's a Hall of Famer yet. I think he has to win himself another ring or two with Miami. But the question is, can Kobe turn around? No. Kobe can't not turn the Lakers around with Dwight Howard. It's just not going to happen. And I know I've been saying all year, and I'm going to still hold to it, even though I'm not going to really openly admit it, but I still think they can. I still think in my heart, deep down in my heart, that they can turn it around and squeak into the playoffs, maybe 7th or 8th place. But Houston looks good. Houston and Memphis and Golden State and Denver and Dallas are hanging around there and sniffing around for that 8th spot. So it's going to be tough if the Lakers are going to turn around. Can they? The chances are very slim, and I honestly think they won't, but somewhere in my heart says they will, and maybe they can, maybe they can't. Steve Nash has looked good. Kobe's looked, he's looked good. I mean, he looked better in the beginning of the season, and I know he switched up his game, passing the ball, rebounding, scoring a little here and there. But there's still a lot that has to happen for this Lakers team. Are they a good team next year? No. If they keep Dwight Howard, no, they will not be. Dwight Howard does not fit in LA, and I know everybody at the beginning of the season, Dwight Howard, and maybe I even was saying it as well, but looking at the first 5 games, and I know they did okay, not really, but Dwight Howard was pretty good. They are not a playoff contender with Dwight Howard. Here's something that I might suggest, maybe a Dwight Howard for Kevin Garnett. Does Boston do that, and does LA do that? Would Kevin Garnett fit here? Would Kevin Garnett fit in the Lakers? Would he go to Boston, one of Boston's fiercest rivals? And I know Boston and LA rivalry isn't what it used to be with Magic and Bird, but, hey, I'm just throwing it out there. It could happen. I know Garnett was saying, could the Clippers get Kevin Garnett? Why would the Clippers need Kevin Garnett? They're good already. It's like the Lakers. Everybody said the Lakers were good enough with Bynum, but instead they traded Bynum for Howard. And everybody thought they were going to be 10 times better. They're 10 times worse. The Lakers look so bad that I think even a team that is dead last could actually stick with them. And here's the thing, here's the problem. Kobe needs to get the ball and he needs to score. That's the problem. And I know everybody says, oh, that's logical. Obviously, he's got to score. Obviously, the Lakers have to score in general, period. And when I say period, I mean finally. Final. That's what they got to do. Period. End of sentence. We can't really talk about it anymore. Right now, we're becoming a sports broadcast network that just is burying into one player and one team. The Clippers look good. They are definitely the best team in LA by about 100 times better. I don't know. Definitely Miami, Oklahoma City. It looks like that could happen again. I think it will. I think it's going to happen again. I'm going to go ahead and make an All-Star break prediction. Miami, OKC, NBA championship game. NBA Finals. Funny. NBA Championship. NBA Finals. That wraps it up for us. 9th edition of the Anchor Radio Network. Shortened edition. I was kind of pressed for time today. We just kind of threw this one together. This one was definitely thrown together on the run. But there were some times in this broadcast, I think, where I got a little bit passionate. I'm looking forward to hearing it and hearing what people say about the passion. The Canucks and the Blues tomorrow enjoying the game. Hopefully the Canucks can get back on a winning streak. They looked pretty bad there in that third period against Dallas. Like, very bad. Like, very, very bad. They basically blew it. I mean, a 3-1 lead. I don't even want to talk about it. The only positive part was Henrik breaking the record. That was the only positive part in my eyes. Hopefully, everybody will enjoy the game tomorrow, and hopefully, they can come back with a vengeance and get back to their winning ways. I think it's St. Louis, and do they not play Chicago coming up? Maybe Detroit and Nashville, maybe somewhere in there. I think they play now. Do they play Nashville? I don't know. It don't really matter, but hey, the All-Star Game's tomorrow, and Jenny All-Star Game, too. That'll be on TSN2, somewhere on there. But we're going to have the coverage for you live right here on the Anchor Radio Network. Am I going to be broadcasting? I'm not going to be on. No, I'm not broadcasting that. Although I wish I was down in Houston broadcasting the All-Star Game. I wish I could. Special thanks to Bob running the controls. 10th edition next week. I hope everybody enjoys that. Special thanks to Tim, our producer, Bob, our co-producer, Rob, our co-producer. I messed it up again. And Sam, our on-site producer. And to the Anchor Radio Network for keeping us on here on the air every week, 9 straight weeks. You got a live on the Anchor Radio Network, the Caleb Turner Talk Show. Stay safe, everybody. Have a good weekend.
You have been listening to a presentation of the Caleb Turner Talk Show on the Anchor Radio Network. Tune in every week for another Caleb Turner Talk Show edition live on the Anchor Radio Network.